Welcome back to Encouraging Things. Today we're going to be taking a look at this design of vinyl Stormtrooper helmet that I found at the Goodwill for about $3. Taking it out of the box, it looks like somebody's already had a go at designing their own Stormtrooper, but it's not too exciting. I think we can do a little bit better. But to do that, we're going to have to clean up some of the old stuff first. So all I did here is I just took a Q-tip with a little bit of alcohol and I went over the markers that had originally been used just to lighten up the colors. Once we lightened up the color a little bit, I decided that we needed to enhance our Stormtrooper helmet a little bit and give it a little bit of a backstory. And for that, what I've done is I've taken a few components that I found in a broken old television and I'm testing them out as greeblies to see how we can enhance this little guy and make him look a little bit more unique. This is the wireless receiver for the remote, which I'm taking out because I like the cover. I think that makes a really good eyepiece. After that, I found a few other components, including this plug adapter, which I'm not going to be using anytime soon, so I've decided to use it as a makeshift antenna. I'm not really certain where I want to put it, but we can figure that out later. This is a strap from a Fitbit that broke, and I decided I liked it as a attachment to the side of the helmet, as a place to hang things. A little bit of glue, put it against the vinyl, a little bit more glue, and we're good to go. For the antenna, I did need to drill a hole. I couldn't find a regular drill bit, so I ended up using this wood drill. It worked well enough for what it was, although it did give me a little bit of trouble. This piece of plastic comes from the end of a apheresis machine adapter set. It doesn't quite fit, so we need to cut some of it off. And immediately lose it inside the helmet. But it was super easy to retrieve, and then we can get back to work. Little press fit, and some super glue, and it's ready to go into the hole that we made. Whenever you're going to glue two items together, it's always good to give a little bit of surface area, and to do that, use a little bit of sandpaper or sanding block, add a little bit of super glue, and just put it on. Now I really like this antenna piece with a little bit of wire sticking out, and so I just put that on the side. I didn't like this large piece and I couldn't find a place to put it, so I just took the wire out and then attached it to the eyepiece. And this bottle cap is going to act as an adjustment dial on the other side. This is the end cap of an apheresis needle. We're just going to go ahead and put that in the front to add sort of a listening device, I think. From there, it's on to painting. Now at first I just put a white base coat on in order to cover up all the old colors. I then attempted to put on a silver color in order to have a metal scratching underneath. However, that wasn't working very well for me, so I stopped halfway through. I figured I could find another way to do the metal scratching later. Because I wanted this to be a desert helmet, I painted it a nice yellow ochre color. Welcome to the part of the video where I remind everybody that I do have a Patreon. If you like my videos, if you like what I do here and you'd like to help support the channel, you can do so by heading on over to patreon.com/encouragingthings and pledge your support. And as always, another great way to support the channel is of course to watch the videos and to engage. Please leave a comment, subscribe, hit the bell, leave a like. Anything at all helps the channel grow, helps the videos get out there, and helps more people see this wonderful content. While I paint in the background, let's go ahead and talk about the history of the Stormtrooper helmet. So I wanted to make something that was desert in color. I think one of the most iconic planets from Star Wars is the desert planet. Not so much Tatooine itself, but other desert planets. Plus, the ground-type Jim from Gundam is one of my favorite color schemes. So I like that color scheme, and I thought it would work well for a desert camouflage. Along with that, I like the idea of an abandoned Stormtrooper. Maybe after the Empire is down, thousands of Stormtroopers are missing or lost. The network's down. No one's getting any orders. Everyone has to kind of fend for themselves. So here you are with this piece of armor that doesn't do what it used to do. You can't communicate with anybody. So you have to make modifications for it. And if you're going to modify the outside and you're no longer restricted by the rules of the Empire, well, might as well have some fun with it. So in this case, we have the orange camo for the head and the front. And then with that, we have the skull painted on there. It serves a dual purpose. The first, of course, being that it allows you to strike fear into your enemies in a way that the Lost Empire Stormtrooper helmet might not. Here's a Stormtrooper who is lost and confused and wild and untamed, not following orders anymore. Who knows what he's going to do? And then it also acts as a camouflage because a white skull boiling in the desert is not something that you don't see out in the middle of the wastelands. Now, whether this helmet was found by somebody and converted, or whether the helmet still belongs to its original owner, we'll leave that up to the imagination. But the real point is that when you see it, you know what it used to be. Now maybe you don't know exactly what it is. It's unique from something that has no uniqueness. And it's worn. It's been used. Has it been cared for? Maybe a little. It's not perfect, but it does function. And that's the most important part. Now for the scratch paint effect, I tried to use some silver paint and it just wasn't working for me. So I rubbed it off and instead I went with some rub and buff, which worked a lot better. It was rather difficult to start off. I'd used a little bit too much, but then I found that if I used a dry brushing technique and cleaned the brush off really, really well before I moved on, I could then build up small layers of the silver on things, and it actually turned out looking really, really well. This is not the first time I've attempted a scratching technique on a model. The first time I tried was on the Mandalorian Pez dispenser, and that one was a base coat of silver with color on top that was then scraped off, which was the attempt I was trying to make on this model. However, for whatever reason, all of the silver paint that I was using, no matter who the manufacturer was or how old it was, just wasn't working. Every bit of paint was coming out looking thin, or basically like I was spraying the model with glitter. And that's why I ended up going with the rub and buff, because the rub and buff, even though it's a surface scrape and it doesn't have that depth that you normally find with the scraping paint away to show the underlayer, it did still give the same effect of having a silver that was showing through paint, especially on the top of the helmet where it was mostly rubbed off rather than scraped off, which I liked that effect because it showed where the helmet may have been set down multiple times as someone took it off and put it on, say, the sand or a pillow or a blanket or something like that, where it was scraped off gently over time and just never replaced. For the last bit, I wanted to add a little bit of dusting to make it look like the desert helmet that it's supposed to be. And for that, I have these chalks from Hobby Lobby. I've decided to use this, I'm assuming it's a yellow ochre color. Now this is the first time I've ever made my own dust. It took a couple of tries. I had to use a pair of pliers to break it up and then a spoon to crush it down even more. And it wasn't as fine as it could have been, so I had to do that 2 or 3 times to get just a fine layer that I could put on. Once that was done, I tried to fill in the gaps as much as possible, get it in the cracks and crevices, get a nice fine dusting on everything. And after that was completed, I used 3-in-1 Mod Podge and water. It's a water and Mod Podge mixture in order to seal everything down. So how did it turn out? Well, it is the largest item I've ever painted, and the scratch building that I put into it was original, even though the Stormtrooper helmet itself was a baseline to work off of, but it did give me something to work with, and it gave me a few ideas. All in all, I think it was really great practice to do scratch building, to do painting, and to do a little bit of weathering, which is something I've really wanted to do, but I've always been nervous about doing because I worry about messing up my paint job or having to start over again. So as always, I want to go ahead and thank you all for stopping by and watching this video through to the end. And I also want to encourage each and every one of you to go out into the world and find something that you can attach greeblies to and that you can make your own through a little bit of paint, a little bit of super glue, whether it's a Stormtrooper helmet or something you found at the dollar store. It's all the same, and it's all good practice. Thank you for stopping by.